here on Earth. Going to do the best that I can to find the light in this dark time. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Appreciate your attendance. Thanks for tuning in. A clearly bad day in world history, you know. So in this very challenging moment, I'm going to do the best that I can to not only keep it short and to the point, probably about 45 minutes, but I'm going to do the best that I can to highlight perhaps the light in this obviously dark situation. Now, we're all obviously very angry, and naturally we all want to extend our thoughts, prayers, love to the U.S. Marine Corps, who it's so interesting how much people kind of love them when they need to love them and then don't when they don't, when it's inconvenient. But I think that there's more people out there that do. And I don't want to come on here and just be like angry, like Joe's dumb, Joe is bad. It's like that's exactly the opposite. And you're going to hear a lot of that from a lot of different people online today, justifiably so. They're going to come on and they're going to yell about Joe and Joe is bad and told you so. And, you know, we should have known this is what we get and all that. So considering that we know that that's what's going to happen, that's going to be the commentary, I'm going to do the best I can to kind of change at least what I broadcast in this particular instance and try to highlight kind of like some different ways to look towards the future. Obviously, I'm very upset about this, as I assume that most human beings with red blood are. Obviously, my heart breaks for the military families, the Marines, people around the world, the people that are still left in Afghanistan, and for all the horrible things that are happening. But I think what's important before we start like dunking on Joey basement voters and being like, you know, you see, that stuff's obvious. You know, it's obvious that like Joe's been wrong on every foreign policy decision for his entire career. It's obvious that the guy is not with us. It's obvious that all the people that voted for Team Basement, Team Crust obviously made a grave mistake. So again, I'm going to do the best I can to not just like dunk on them right now, because I don't really know how helpful that is. And I think that there's plenty of media out there of people doing that. So we're all mad. We're all upset. What I think this illustrates, amongst many other things, is the negative ramifications that come as a result of decisions now and how they play out later. And what I think that's really important for us to do going forward, because all of us that believe that we were kind of like on the right side of this, we all had the ability to perceive like, hey, you know, Joe's been wrong about a lot of things. A lot of people that did a lot of research, that care a whole lot about America and the troops, and care about the police, and care about just like people of the planet, as I'm sure all of us all do, as I know all of us all do. It's like, I think it's really important to remember that going forward, if we just weaponize this moment and we just say, oh, like I was doing it earlier, I'm like, that's what like, oh, I hope all the Biden supporters feel this and whatever else. And it's like, I just don't know how productive that is at this moment. So what I've been thinking about is like, how do we find the light in this otherwise horrifying situation? How do we find the light from what's going on? I think that we need to remember that this is not a red-white issue. This is not a Democrat-Republican issue. This is not a Joe Biden, Donnie ballpark issue. This is not a who's in power right now, progressive, liberal. It's not about that. What it's about is the right decision, whomever has the right decision, at a very crucial moment in time and rallying around the right decision, no matter whom has it. So I hope that everybody understands that instead of being mad about this, which is an obvious natural emotional reaction, which all of us have every right to be mad and be angry, if we could only say, how do we find the light and how do we use this and how do we make this an example going forward as how to properly look at the questions and challenges that will inevitably come our way. That's American citizens' way. That's people's way. That's the way of the world. How are we going to look at things going forward? How are we going to share this with people that may be realizing that they made a mistake today? I think what we have to remember is that just because someone disagrees with you, red or blue or whatever, at the end of the day, most of us, I would bet that more people than we think don't identify as Republican or right or red or whatever it is. That just happens to be the greatest compilation of decisions and policies that make sense, that align with your values at this moment in time. We don't just unequipped or conservatives, whatever you want to call it. It's not like Donnie all the way, red all the way, red can do no bad. It's only the liberals. It's only these stupid libs. It's only the progressives. It's only Joe and Kamala and Krusty, and they're so dumb, and look how stupid and evil they are, and evil, evil, evil. And even though that may be accurate, it's like counterproductive. What we should be really focusing on is what are the individual decisions and what are the outcomes that come as a result of those decisions. So what I'm thinking about right now is like, I really wish that more people on the side of the juice v. unjuiced debate would understand that the juice debate, the freedom debate, the pro-America debate, the decisions in Afghanistan debate, all of these debates can come down to two things. It's like, do you align all the way through, no matter what, with the decisions of some particular party? Do you choose your decision? Do you choose what side of the argument that you're on before you hear the topic? There may be things that you agree with a liberal on. There may be things that you agree with a Democrat on. You don't have to like die on the hill of republicanism or rightism or redism or whatever. You can be pro a bunch of these things, but maybe on the fence about these things, and that's okay. And instead of us being like, it's the libs, it's the Dems, it's like, that's such a counterproductive, kind of point of view. And I think that ultimately is one of a variety of reasons why we get stuck in this trap where it's just like, yeah, like we're going to get mad at the other side. So I wish that more people would understand that what I believe the real debate is, what I think the true sides are the sides of well thought out and calculated decisions that result in the lowest amount of human suffering in our perspective, in my perspective. That's the side that I'm on. It's like, which will create a lesser amount of human suffering. That could be less human suffering in terms of inflation. That could be less human suffering in terms of gas prices. That could be less human suffering in terms of decisions in war. That could be less human suffering in terms of the juice. That could be less human suffering in terms of lockdowns. It could be in anything. It's really, which of our decisions do we believe will lead to less human suffering in totality? Because that's the side that I'm on. And I would imagine that the vast majority of you folks, theys and thems and z's and zers and guys and gals and whatever you want to call yourself, dinosaurs, whatever, I would believe that the vast majority of people are on that side. So instead of making it about like lib slash dem v conservative slash repub, whatever, could it be, what is the most logical decision that will result in the less total amount of human suffering? That's the side that I think that I'm on, right? So what is that decision now? And like, how do we react to this particular situation and the juice discussion as it relates to that? Instead of being mad at the other side, especially at this moment that's like a somber, dark moment in American history and how bad they screwed up something that seems so obvious to all of us, How do we change the discussion going forward? So instead of just being very mad, it's kind of hit me yesterday. I was watching Newsmax, and I was listening to one of the news anchors talk about the Biden administration's decisions about insert whatever issue it was. And they're like, can you believe that? That's insane. Oh, like he should go to court. And they were like very aggro. And I'm like, you know what this sounds like? This sounds like MSNBC 1 year ago. This sounds like the other side being like, Donnie, can you believe he said this? He's a tyrant, tyranny. And it's like, it literally is the same. So it's just like for 4 years, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, they were all just like, Trump needs to go to jail. And it was like a lot of chirping and a lot of noise about how evil Donnie was. And well, did you hear what he said here? Did you hear what he said here? Now it's flipped on the other side. And it's like everybody doing the exact same thing against Joe and against the left. And it's like, look, whatever side of the argument you sit on, it's a whole lot of chirp and not a whole lot of execution and action. So I was watching it. I'm like, yo, this is all too familiar. And it's just like a whole bunch of running in circles without any productive output. And on a live stream that I did last night with Speak Truth Without Fear, we had this conversation where we were talking about like, it's like, I think that the solution to all of these problems, the ultimate solution, the end game, the end result of all this stuff is that this is a people problem. It's a people problem, which means that I believe, as much as people don't want to admit it, I believe that the government in a lot of ways will adjust to the will of the people if the people get loud enough about a particular issue and sound the alarm, so to speak, about a particular issue in enough mass that they kind of like have no choice. When you have all these parents showing up to these school board meetings, sometimes they're actually getting the result. And the ones that are persistent, they actually kind of can sway the opinions of these establishments that supposedly don't care about the people by just making enough noise. The question is who will cause more of a ruckus, who will make more noise? That's kind of what it comes down to. And if anybody out there has seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption, let how Andy got his library financed be a lesson. For anybody that hasn't seen that movie, what he talks about is he's just like, I want to get funding for some library books. So he wrote a letter every day to this board or whatever so that he could get funding to start this library. And then after 10 years of persistence, they wrote him a letter and they said, here's $700, buy the book. Like, please stop sending us letters. And they were like, look at you, Andy, you finally got your way. You got the money for the library. And he's like, yeah, and now I'm going to start sending 2 letters a day. And he sent the 2 letters a day, and he ended up getting funding for this massive library they cut to the scene. So the point is that it's that persistence, it's that persistent force and that pressure on what you believe is the ultimate cause for good that ultimately makes things happen. So going forward, I think that the conversation, if we were to be more productive and ultimately more effective, would consist of the following. This is a human issue. This is a humans talking to other humans and convincing them that this is right issue. I think that we would live in a more productive society if instead of making it left, right, red, blue, lib, dem, Republican, conservative, however, it would be like, which do we think will create the lowest amount of human suffering as a result of these decisions? So it's like the decisions that were made, I think anybody on either side of the argument can look at the decisions that were made overseas and be like, okay, here's an objective and obvious truth that these were the wrong decisions. Why did we get rid of this air base when we had it under control for all these years? Why did we take this smaller air base? There's any number of different things. Why would you leave with other citizens behind? How are you going to change the rhetoric to say that this is a success because you've got so many people out there? I think that the discussion needs to be, look at the human suffering. You see it, we see it. We both can see. We both can unite on the idea that we don't want our Marines to die, right? We all can agree on that. We all can agree that this probably could have been avoided. Okay, do you agree with that? Sure, you can probably agree with that. Okay. So considering those two things, the question is like, what is the decision going forward? And do we agree that maybe these supposed people that supposedly know better than us, that are all knowing, all seeing, and better than everybody, is it possible that they made the wrong decision about this and they're also making the wrong decision about a variety of different other things? Because I think a lot of us feel like The vast majority of people is looking out the window with their raw ojos, and the rest of us are looking through binocs, and we could see the encroachment coming from from 2 miles away, and we're like, yo, we could see it, dog. I see them coming, and they're just like, nah. And it's like, look through these binocs, and they're like, no, those are Donnie's binocs, and it's like, yeah, okay. So like I said, it's like, how do we use this moment to find some light, and how do we change the conversation going forward so that we have a more productive future? I think that instead of being like, you see, and dunking on these people and being very mad, and Joe is whatever, Joe's evil, I think that we should say, centralized decision-making in the hands of people that have objectively made mistakes and lied and been wrong time and time again and again is probably not always the best thing, especially when it comes to the health of your family, for example, your freedom, and a variety of other things. So it's like, you see what happened to these Marines overseas today. That was a wrong decision, cloaked in a theoretically good idea with poor execution. And I think that what's going on now with the juice, what's going on now with the schools, the lockdowns, whatever around the world, is the same thing. It's like, it's a really poor decision, a foreseeably bad decision with theoretically the right intentions, but poor execution and a lot of human suffering and casualty as a result of it. So if we could only see from that side of the argument, that side of the discussion, Joe is my dad, and Joe gave me a Werther's Original and bounced me on my knee, and he's my father. It's like, if they could only see like, hey, here's an incorrect decision that resulted in a lot of human suffering. Could you see that they maybe are not as good at making decisions as you think, and that collectively the people that are trying to see the truth, that are trying to do research, that aren't just carte blanche believing whatever the structure says to them at any given moment, they actually may be right. And they could be right about the juice, and they could be right about the lockdowns, and there's a variety of other human suffering that's happening as a result of all these poor decisions and poor executions with theoretically the right intentions. And if you want to be mad and just be like, Joe is dead, Joe is bad, whatever, it's like, okay, somebody said he's live right now. People on Facebook are like, I disagree, Joe's evil. Okay, yeah, I mean, you're entitled to that belief, and I don't think that you're wrong. I'm just saying. Yeah, I don't see Joey being live right now. If he is, I'll turn on my thing here. Oh, it looks like he is. Okay, let's have a listen.
Who shall I send? Who shall go for us? The American military has been answering for a long time. Here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, send me. Each one of these women and men of our armed forces are the heirs of that tradition of sacrifice, of volunteering to go in harm's way, to risk everything, not for glory, not for profit, but to defend what we love and the people we love. And I ask that you join me now in a moment of silence for all those in uniform and out, military and civilian, who've given the last full measure of devotion.
He can't even read the teleprompter. Sad, dude.
Thank you. May God bless you all, and may God protect His troops and all those standing watch for America. We have so much to do. It's within our capacity to do it. We just have to remain steadfast. Steadfast. We will complete our mission, and we will continue after our troops have withdrawn to find means by which we can find any American who wishes to get out of Afghanistan. We will find them and we will get them out.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, they gave me a list here. The first person I was instructed to call on was Kelly O'Donnell.
The first person I was instructed to call on.
Have said leaving Afghanistan is in the national interest of the United States.
This dude is
After
not
today's
with
attack,
us.
Do you believe you will authorize additional forces to respond to that attack inside Afghanistan? And are you prepared to add additional forces to protect those Americans who remain on the ground carrying out the evacuation operation?
I've instructed the military, whatever they need, if they need additional force, I will grant it. But the military, from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, commanders in the field, have all contacted me one way or another, usually by letter, saying they subscribe to the mission as designed.
Yo, we're about to get crusty.
Get as many people out as we can.
It's about to be crusty, I'm telling you.
Frame.
We're about to get crusty up in this mother.
That is the best way, they believe, to get as many Americans out as possible and others.
The thing that's so sad is that this is all avoidable. It's all avoidable stuff.
The ISIS leaders who ordered this, we have some reason to believe we know who they are.
Yeah.
Not certain.
Yeah, they know who they are.
And
come on, bro.
Find ways or choosing without large military operations to get them wherever they are.
Joe is not a sentient human being.
Reuters.
You're calling on Reuters? It's like,
Mr. President.
Okay.
There's been some criticism, even from people in your party, about the dependence on the Taliban to secure the perimeter of the airport. Do you feel like there was a mistake made in that regard?
No, I don't.
No, no mistake.
McKenzie handled this question very well. The fact is that we're in a situation, we inherited a situation, particularly since, as we all know, that the Afghan military collapsed 11 days before, in 11 days, that it is in the interest of, as Mackenzie said, in the interest of the Taliban, that in fact ISIS-K does not metastasize beyond what it is.
He loves saying that, metastasize. That's like the word of the month.
Number two,
metastasize. It's like, Joe, define metastasize. He's like,
to leave on time, on target. As a consequence of that, the major things we've asked them,
ISIS-K,
moving back the perimeter, giving more space between the wall,
ISIL-K
vehicles from coming through,
is the Delta variant.
Searching people coming through.
Taliban.
It is not what you'd call a tightly commanded, regimented operation like the U.S. is, military is.
People don't understand. Krusty is worse. Way worse.
Their interest.
She doesn't even know. Whatever.
So, by and large, and I've asked this very same question.
She's like, who do I have to?
Whether or not.
It's like, it doesn't work like that, Krusty.
No one trusts them. We're just counting on their self-interest to continue
ISIS-K
to generate their activity.
Is that a goat? Yeah.
It's in their self-interest that we leave when we say, and that we get as many people out as we can. Like I said,
Pompeo!
If everything happened today,
Pompeo!
over 7,000
Come get us, Pompeo!
people have gotten out, 5,000 Americans. So it's not a matter of trust, it's a matter of mutual self-interest. And but there's no evidence thus far that I've been given as a consequence by any of our commanders in the field that there has been collusion between the Taliban and ISIS in carrying out what happened today, both in front of the hotel and what is expected to continue for beyond today. Amir, Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have spoken
Yo.
again, powerfully about your own son.
Powerfully.
The weight of these decisions.
Oh God, here we go.
With that in mind, and also what you said, that the longer we stay, the more likelihood that there would be a major attack. How do you weigh staying even one more day, considering what's happened?
Because I think
Because there's Americans there, bro.
matters. What we say we're going to do in the context in which we say we're going to do it, that we do it.
The thing that's so wild.
Unless something exceptional changes.
The thing that's so wild is like
there are additional American citizens. There are additional green card holders.
they're like, oh, we're requesting the safe passage from the Taliban. It's like, oh, you mean the same people that are like breaking into people's houses and taking 12-year-old girls out? Yeah.
There are additional Afghans.
We're trusting that they'll just take our papers. It's like, all right.
Additional groups of individuals that have been contacted us, from women's groups to NGOs and others, who have expressly indicated they want to get out and have gathered in certain circumstances in groups, on buses and other means. That still presents the opportunity for in the next several days between now and the 31st to be able to get them out.
Yikes.
And
big yikes.
Our military, and I believe, to the extent that we can do that, knowing
Send Hunter.
the threat, knowing that we may very well have another attack.
Maybe Hunter could paint us
Military has concluded
something
that's
through a
what we
straw
should
for
do.
this.
I think they're right. I think they're correct. And after that, we're going to be in a circumstance where will be, I believe, numerous opportunities to continue to provide access for additional persons to get out of Afghanistan, either through means that we provide.
Today, Junior, talk faster.
Provided through cooperation with the Taliban. They're not good guys, the Taliban. I'm not suggesting that at all. But they have keen interest. As many of you have been reporting, they very much would like to figure out how to keep the airport open. They have the capacity to do it.
I'm sure they would like to keep it open.
They very much are trying to figure out whether or not they can maintain what is the portion of an economy that has become not robust, but fundamentally different than it had been. And so there's a lot of reasons why they have reached out, not just to us, but to others, as to why it would be continued in their interest to get more of the personnel we want to get out.
Here's what I don't understand.
Now, there's not many left that we can assess
Oh, okay.
that want to come out.
They don't want to come out.
Americans.
They don't want to.
Contact
They're like, I'm good. I'll stay. It's like, okay, sure.
who don't want to leave.
Yeah, they don't want to leave.
They're dual nationals. They have extended families.
Who doesn't want to leave?
And there's others who
They're like, nah, I'm good.
are looking for the time. So that's why we continue. I'll take a few more questions. And
I wanted to ask.
Jesus!
You say that when America
Woo!
says,
Whoa!
what do you say to the Afghans troops?
That was
who
loud.
won't be able to get out by August 31st.
we're going to continue to try to get you out. It matters. Look.
No man left behind unless they don't want to come because they can't. But
no conflict where when a war was ending, one side was able to guarantee that everyone they wanted to be extracted from that country would get out. And think about it, folks.
oh God, here we go.
I think it's important. I know the American people get this in their gut.
Do we?
There are, I would argue, millions of Afghani citizens who are not Taliban, who did not actively cooperate, with us as SIVs who, if given a chance, they'd be on board a plane tomorrow.
Sure. I bet a lot of people in the Congo
So
would be on a
the
plane tomorrow too.
vast majority of people in communities like that want to come to America, given a choice.
Okay. Who doesn't want to
So-
come to America?
Getting every single person out
Just
is
the Americans would be good.
can't be guaranteed to anybody because there's a determination all who wants to get out as well.
Okay.
Anyway,
They don't want to
it's a
come out.
process. I was really pointing to you, but you, sir.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. President. There are reports that U.S. officials provided the Taliban with names of Americans and Afghan officials to evacuate. Were you aware of that? Did that happen? And, sir, did you personally reject a recommendation to hold or to recapture Bagram Air Force Base?
Here's what I've done let's answer the last question first.
Oh, come on. It's the other one.
Questions of how to conduct an evacuation or war. I gather up all the major military personnel that are in Afghanistan, the commanders, as well as the Pentagon. And I ask for their best military judgment. What would be the most efficient way to accomplish the mission? They concluded, the military,
Commander in chief.
was not much value added, that it was much wiser to focus on Kabul. And so I followed that recommendation.
Yo,
With regard to,
why
there are certain circumstances
would ICE
where
why would
we've gotten information, and quite frankly, sometimes from some of you,
why would they buy
saying you know of such and such a group of people are trying to get out.
why would they bomb when we're already leaving? That would just make us stay. Why would they do that?
And
I don't
this
think
is
they
the
would.
occasion.
But whatever.
And there have been occasions when
Just piss us
the
off.
military has contacted their military counterparts in the Taliban and said, this, for example, this bus is coming through with X number of people on it, made up of the following group of people.
Here's the
We want you to let that.
here's
that
their
group through.
Facebook page. Here's a picture
And
of their
yes, there have been
house.
Occasions like that.
Here's how old they are.
And to the best of my knowledge, in those cases, the bulk of that has occurred. They've been let through. But I can't tell you with any certitude that there's actually been a list of names. I know there may have been, but I know of no circumstances. Doesn't mean didn't exist. That here's the names of 12 people. They're coming, let them through. It could very well have happened. I'll take one more question.
One more question.
Oh, wait. Let me take the one question from the most interesting guy that I know in the press. That's you.
Mr. President, there had not
Fox!
been a U.S. service member killed in combat in Afghanistan since February of 2020. You set a deadline, you pulled troops out, you sent troops back in, and now 12 Marines are dead. You said the buck stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded?
He's going to say no.
Weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late. Here's the deal.
Okay.
You know, I wish you'd one day say these things. You know as well as I do that the former president made a deal.
Oh, Donnie! He's going to blame Donnie!
Did we get all
Oh, my God.
out of?
Yo, you can't make this up.
In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before.
He's
In
like,
return,
Donnie.
the commitment.
wow.
Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces. Remember that?
Yeah, we remember.
I'm being serious. I'm asking you a question. Because before. No, wait a minute. I'm asking you a question.
All right,
Is
Joe.
that accurate? The best of your knowledge.
Give him a microphone. They won't give him the mic.
I think they have an issue that people are likely to get hurt.
Come on.
Some, as we've seen, have gotten killed, and that it is messy. The reason why, whether my friend will acknowledge,
He's just like Donnie. It
the
was
reason why
Donnie.
there were no attacks on Americans, as you said, from the date until I came into office was because the commitment was made by President Trump. I will be out by May 1st.
Oh,
In the meantime, you agree not to attack any Americans. That was
Donnie.
the deal.
Donnie.
That's why no American was attacked.
Basically, you said you squarely stand by your decision to pull out.
Yes, I do, because look at it this way, folks.
Oh God, here we go.
I have another meeting for real.
Oh jeez. I have another meeting.
Imagine
For real.
where we'd be
A meeting with the prune juice and
if
a
I had indicated
hot dump and a nap, I
on
think.
May the 1st, I was not going to renegotiate a evacuation date.
All right.
We were going to stay there. I'd have only one alternative: pour thousands of more troops back into Afghanistan to fight a war that we had already won relative to why the reason we went in the first place.
All right.
I have never been of the view that we should be sacrificing American lives to try to establish a democratic government in Afghanistan, a country that has never once in its entire history been a united country and is made up, I don't mean this in a derogatory, made up of different tribes who have never, ever, ever gotten along with one another.
Oh.
And so,
Different.
as I said before,
different
this is the last
tribes.
comment I'll make. We'll have more chance to talk about this, unfortunately, beyond, because we're not out yet.
Okay. It's like, bro,
If
you're leading the
Osama bin Laden,
all right then.
as well as Al Qaeda, had chosen to launch an attack when they left Saudi Arabia out of Yemen,
Yemen.
would we have ever gone to Afghanistan? Even though the Taliban completely controlled Afghanistan at the time, would we have ever gone?
Joey Choco Chip.
I know it's not fair to ask you questions, it's rhetorical, but raise your hand if you think we should have gone. We've given up thousands of lives,
Yo, this guy.
tens of thousands.
This guy's on one.
Our interest in going was to prevent Al Qaeda from reemerging, first to get bin Laden, wipe out Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, prevent that from happening again. As I've said 100 times,
100 times.
terrorism is metastasized around the world.
He loves
We have
that.
Greater threats coming out of other countries,
Metastasized.
a heck of a lot closer to the United States. We don't
Metastasized.
have military encampments there. We don't keep people there. We have over the horizon capability to keep them from going after us. Ladies and
Metastasized.
gentlemen, it was time to end a 20-year war. Thank you so much.
And he bounces, and that's it. That's all, and that's it. Wow, great, awesome, cool. That concluded about a whole lot of nothing. Awesome. In other news, I I have to jump on a call in about 5 minutes, 7 minutes. But I did want to. I did want to, like I was saying before, I just wanted to say that we have to try to figure out a way to change the way that we approach the conversation going forward. Because again, it's like, if we just say the same things that we've been saying, like Joe's someone's grandfather, like Joe's bouncing him on the knee, like Joe just poured out a tall glass of Parmesan for Hunter, like Hunter's a garbage merchant, like Hunter's blowing trash through a straw and selling it for millions of dollars. If we say all the things that have obviously been said, obviously those things are not getting through. So I think in life and in business and whatever you want to call it, I think that we would all be better off if we could figure out a way to change the way that we formulate the discussion going forward. And I think that the discussion is a discussion of, do we think that this decision will make the least amount of long and short-term human suffering? If we believe that that is the answer to the question, forget left, forget right, forget Joe, forget Donnie. Unfortunately, for the time being, this ice cream cone Werther's original Choco Chip is the theoretical leader of the world. So instead of just being like, he's dumb, let's put him in prison or whatever, which is true, and we probably, and it would probably be good. I'm just saying, if we could only maybe just try to approach this conversation, this very touchy conversation, with a little bit of a different approach. And if we could say, hey, we want to focus on the thing that's going to create the lowest amount of human suffering. We think that blowing out the spending is going to create more human suffering. Having monumental trade debts is the human suffering. And for all the people that are like patiently waiting in a pineapple under the sea, waiting for Donnie and the Batmobile to like swoop in on a Blackhawk and like Pompeo to like rappel down and save all of our lives and round up Pelosi and put her in cuffs and take her to the gulag. Let us all just realize, for the 50 millionth time, Donnie Ballpark is not coming back in the next 3 years. This dude is not going to be the president. Stop worshiping the ground he walks on. It's like the guy clearly made a lot of bad decisions. I'm not saying Joe's better. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying, can we please drop the Donnie's in a pineapple under the sea? He's going to come and save us. The world will be safe. Just put your hope and faith in Donnie. I hope he comes back. I hope they turn around the whatever. And I hope that they find the ballots. I really do. But I'm just saying, could we maybe just drop that for a little bit and be like, Donald is not on a pineapple under the sea. He's not JFK Jr.'s, long lost uncle. And unfortunately, Joey Walkaway is the garbage merchant currently driving this flaming bus off of the nearest cliff. So anyhow, I don't want to continue to drag this out. I just wanted to say, at this very troubling time, could we please try to find the light of an otherwise dark situation? And could we please try to change the conversation going forward, instead of being like, the other side is bad and evil and they eat babies and all this? How about we say, do you think that this decision will result in less or more human suffering? Why or why not? I think that it will result in less human suffering because of X. Not red, not blue, not left, not right, just lower human suffering, short-term, long-term. I think that's the answer. So, with that being said, thank you guys all for being here. Thanks to everybody that got the badges. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Britt C. Wolf, Nick ACSH Fuss, Nikash Fuss, Aaron Nick, Kenny Winter, NIUMT 2009, I Can't Find My Wallet, Jen Lisa 80, and Chooks Official. Thank you guys so much for the badges on Instagram. I very much appreciate it. For anybody that was asking about a PayPal, there it is right there. That PayPal should work. But either way, try to find some light on this otherwise dark day. I do have to jump because I got to be on this call in 2 minutes. But I just wanted to take a few minutes while the world was on fire to just be like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If we just howl at the moon about how Joe is a trash merchant and he's so bad and the left is garbage and all this and dem, lib, everything's trash, we're not going to change their mind that way. We're not going to change anybody's mind that way. I think that we have to put it into the frame of, I believe that this will create a lower amount of human suffering. I think that is at least the way that I'm going to approach it going forward. And I'm going to make it about human suffering and not about left, right, and not about juice and not about Joe. And trust me, I'm still going to make jokes about how he's a Werther's Original Garbage Factory and he's obviously a trash merchant and Krusty's no better. But I'm just saying, I think we'd be all be better off if we make it about human suffering and reducing the amount of human suffering there is, and the decisions that are objectively causing more people to suffer around the world, not just in the United States, but everywhere on the earth. So try to find some light in this day. Pray for the Marines. God bless America. We should all be thankful that these Marines bravely put their life on the line for us. So much respect to them. And I hope America will persevere. And I know that we will. So change the conversation and thank a Marine. That's all. Find some light in the darkness. That's really all that we can do right now. All right. Much love. Appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Facebook, YouTube. Appreciate you. Find the light.